What a lovely day!
Hello, and welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we're just setting up for the first live debate, which will be over on Flat Earth Debate channel, link in the info box below this video. But we are joined currently by Anthony Riley, so I'll say a quick hello to you. Oh, am I going to get told off for not calling you Sleeping Warrior straight away?
Warrior, correct.
So Sleeping Warrior, subscribe all. Subscribe now. Sleeping Warrior. How are you?
Reasonable. We do have an early bird request from somebody by the name of Unorthodox.
Oh, I know what this is about.
He wanted to challenge us today on density buoyancy arguments, and he's asked us to brush up on them. So I told him, obviously, that we're ready whenever he is. We could do it now. But he insisted on making some kind of presentation tomorrow, and he asked if he could give the link, if he could have the link as soon as I got it, so that he could perhaps join beforehand. So Unorthodox has been sent the link, and we'll see whether or not he joins. He probably won't, because he might not realize he's got the link because it's been sent through and through Discord, and I don't have any other way of getting in touch with him. But nonetheless, we may be joined by Unorthodox. I look forward to how he's going to demonstrate gravity.
Yeah, he's picked this up in the in the comments and chat rooms. So he's been saying, "Yeah, I hope you guys are ready to eat humble pie," and basically bigged it up in quite an overt way, which is great. You know, I'm all for it if he's done a bit of work. You know, if he feels it. Obviously, we'll have to establish which. Did you say but density buoyancy? Which gravity is he trying to prove?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because we could allow him to do the Newtonian gravity, and then we'll just flip out the Einstein paper that snaps the wand in half and redefines down. We did that yesterday, did we?
No. So he said he hasn't watched the show, so it may be the case that he isn't aware that he'll go through a whole Cavendish Newtonian demonstration in terms of proving what is essentially relative density, only for us to say, well, unfortunately, that's not the current scientific rhetoric, and the current science, in quotes, not science, is the bending of space-time. So, unfortunately, no. But we'll see. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's figured out.
Let us not forget that Einstein redefined the definition of down in this context. It wasn't down as in towards the center of mass. He redefined down to be the direction in which time travels slowest. So in that context, I'm looking forward to how he's going to bend a little bit of space-time by making time dilate.
Yeah, it's awesome. Did you watch that Jaron video about he was reading out an article from Robertson Jenis? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. But I watched most of it, but do you know, I kind of lost interest right at the very beginning when he was describing Robertson Jenis by his own Wikipedia page as a theoretical scientist or physicist. And I was like, theoretical physicist? That means, we all know what that means, right? You can have any theories you want if you're a theoretical physicist. I've got a theory that Santa exists, and I've got lots of evidence that supports it. But ultimately, if you're not going to provide empiricism to support your assertions, then I'm not likely to accept anything from so when I listened to his video and I was watching it, I realized how nonsense it was, and it kind of spurned me on to like have a little bit more having a little look at Einstein nonsense, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, while you might want to discredit Robertson Jenis for whatever reasons that you may have, he's not making any empirical assertions. He's pulling apart the rhetoric. So he's essentially the main detail, the main crux of the point is the transform equations that are applied. That's the main point that's being made by Robertson Jenis, read by Jeronism on this video, how Einstein made the Earth turn. And he's got things like, as you're increasing your speed, getting ever closer to the speed of light, you've got your physical mass contracting. In other words, in the equation, the same transform equation that are used, or riddled, shall we say, in Einstein's work, you've got this polar opposite. It's the complete opposite formula. being applied, and just then a verbal explanation, which we would be familiar with, right? You know, as you get closer to the speed of light, you contract, you get shorter, right? Well, all that nonsense has come from this problem of the Earth not turning. You know, that's why they've got to apply all this mathematical nonsense. And he did, in my opinion, he did an excellent job of highlighting the rhetoric in the same way that we would when we were looking at something like the Cavendish experiment. Now, if someone was to come along and say, well, you guys aren't offering empiricism, it's like, no, we're pulling apart the lack of empiricism from a claimed experiment. And that's pretty much what Robertson-Jenis was doing with Einstein. So, yeah, I see a point. Maybe it's valid. It's not for me to ponder. It's more, is the information valid? So, you know, regardless of whether or not you want to poison the well for Robertson-Jenis, the information that he exposed was sound.
One of the most interesting things I've recently discovered by that scientific American paper that snaps the wand of Newtonian principles in half. You know how Cavendish quantified the force between the masses to be exceptionally minute, and I quote, not more than 1/50 millionth of the object's mass. Well, aside from the fact that this is the claim that they need for holding on the atmosphere onto the Earth, I mean, have you ever seen a force of 1/50 millionth of an object's mass being enough to do anything to it with regards to holding it to the Earth? But anyway, I digress. Do you know what the scale in Einstein's, you know, this claim of time dilation? Bear in mind that we're talking the 50 millionths with Newton. Do you know what the scale is for Einstein with regards to the time dilation? What the scale is?
Yeah, he went. Jenis did bring up this stat. It's something like 10 to the. I don't know the number exactly. You'd have to remind me, but it was some astronomical number.
Trillions, not 50 millionths. It's trillionths of an object's weight. So the time dilation is, well, I'll have to find it here. Let's see if I can find the bit where I can actually read it.
Well, while you're looking at this gets extrapolated out into the time differences in satellites that are actually orbiting, that are not geostationary. So the explanation given is used in, you know, your modern Discovery Channel explanation for the bullshit surrounding satellites and their clock differences that they get. So anyway, that will make sense and tie it to it once you found it. Hopefully, I've bought you enough time to look for it.
Yeah. It says, and I quote verbatim, this is what Sean Huffer doesn't do: the morphing of space and time is not just the stuff of exotic physics. It governs the motion of any falling object. Baseballs, wine glasses, expensive smartphones, things that slip out of your hand and accelerate towards the floor because the Earth's mass warps time. Down is defined by the direction in which time passes more slowly. In human terms, the deviations are small, parts in a trillion at most, but enough to account for the rate at which falling objects pick up speed. When you see an apple fall from a tree, you are watching it roll across the contours of time. How romantic is that?
What a load of old bollocks.
It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense.
Well, the thing to round that out with is that while it might sound poetic, and you're right, it does, it is not based in any sort of experimental validity whatsoever. This is nothing more than poetry.
And of course, Einstein was criticized for having, or he admitted having, zero experimental research to support his claims. Zero experimental research. It was purely based on, according to Brian Cox, his ideas that kind of span 10 years, really. Brian Cox quotes him as just basing all this on his ideas of 10 years or so. Well, for the last 10 years, I've had ideas as well, so should I come up with my own concepts?
If that's the case, man, my unicorn idea is definitely come and gone nicely.
Yeah.
Got at least 15 years into that, man. So, unicorn's basically proven by that standard.
Yeah. Whilst we're waiting for Unorthodox to perhaps not show, I believe that Arwin has overslept today. He's not had a pre-show. So whilst he's overslept, I mean, bear in mind he's at like 3 in the afternoon, he's somehow not got out of bed in time to be able to do his own show at 3 in the afternoon. So shout outs to Arwin. but nonetheless, I find
show,
it incredibly oversleep.
Do you know what the last show number was? Because I did try and tell him this, but I don't know whether it was just had a lot on his plate or what. But I was like, don't publish the following day's show until you're ready to have it up, because it just slips right the way down the lists. But it means that I do know, because I saw it, that he had planned to have a show today.
I think he's live now.
Oh, really?
I think so.
That's right.
I'm reliably told. Let's have a little look.
Let's have a look. See if you're right. I know, I don't see him.
No, I don't see him either.
No, he's not live as far as I can tell. I'm subscribed to him, unless the notification hasn't come out, which was kind of one of the reasons why I was telling him not to schedule the show as he is. But maybe I didn't have that conversation with him. That or he's ignored me, one or the other. But either way.
Well, shout outs to Arwin. Go and subscribe. He's got over his 1,000 subs now, so he doesn't need us anymore. Oh, Arwin.
No, he's still come on the show. He was on yesterday and the day before and the day before that.
I know, I just love his abuse. He gives me much more abuse than what I deserve, but I guess he sees it as warranted.
Oh, you're just giving him a ribbing.
Yeah. It's all good in the end.
Well, let's hope he doesn't start. That said, it doesn't really make much difference because the live shows at the moment get such a limited audience on Flat Earth Debate Channel. It's only got about 200 subscribers. So, you know, if Arwin was live, who cares?
Yeah, but now that you've got a non-personal Flat Earth channel, that might be a really good way, or like a really good opportunity to expand the Nathan Oakley brand by depersonalizing it, but also like spreading it out a little bit thinner so that you don't have to do all of the work. I know you're not going to agree with me, but I just thought I'd mention it.
The world is my oyster, I suppose. There's a whole number of possibilities open to me. But yeah, all I'm saying is if I've said this to everybody, because Arwin, when he started the Early Bird show, I'm sorry for all the laughing and giggling toys in the background, by the way. Arwin was saying, I don't want to go live because you've got a show running at X time. I was like, but you're scheduled. It would have been 1 o'clock. I was like, yeah, I started early because of Spanish, you know, because I do on a Monday. I either don't have a second show or start early. And he's like, oh yeah, I just forgot. In other words, I'd probably mentioned to it 70 or 80 times, you know, and it's just not sunk in. But I was like, it doesn't make any difference. If I've got a show running, don't not put your show up. You know, you've got your subscribers, and if they see 2 different shows, they might tune in for the watch time duration that you get as your average. Let's say it's 15 minutes, and then tune out. So in the hour, they might tune into both shows. It doesn't make any difference to your view count, in my humble opinion. You know, yeah, there's going to be dedicated fans that might wander over to me by chance if Dell's not on, but if Dell is on, they'll stay there for the entire show. But so what? You know, they might glance at the show if they were a cursory watcher after the shows are finished, which is typically how most people view it anyway. So to me, it doesn't make any difference who's live. You know, I've often gone up against Patricia and Mark or Dirth or Jaren, and you just don't give it a thought. If you've got a show planned and it's scheduled for a time, I just do it. It's like, oh no, Patricia's live. So what? You know, I'll watch her show once I'm done. You know what I mean?
Well, at the risk of poisoning the well, given that Unorthodox is about to join, Jaren messaged me the other day, and he said we had a bit of a back and forth, and then he said, I'm just going to go and walk the dog and listen to Nathan's show. And the show that he was referring to was the one where the first show that Unorthodox came on. And I'll be honest, I find him incredibly annoying because I think he's here to troll. I don't think Unorthodox is really as sincere as what he portrays, because I don't think somebody can be as intelligent as he claims to be, but also be as stupid as he actually is.
Well, that's Dunning-Kruger. Dunning-Kruger.
Well, I know it's the most overused word in the debate, but yeah, it does seem to be that way. But I said to Jerry, my advice was, don't bother watching that particular show. Unorthodox was in it, and it was a shit fest. And literally, he went live later that night, and he said that it was one of the best shows. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Unorthodox ruins the show. He has no valuable, credible input whatsoever. But Jaren liked it, and it was weird how I was of the total opposing view, because I just see it as a shitfest. And Jaren saw it as brilliant because it's just getting like another baller getting battered again. Weird how people perceive different interpretations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's a certain number of the audience that love to hate the show, and you try explaining that to your average layman. Yeah, there's people that will come religiously to thumb it down, but they really enjoy it, and have even said they miss it when it was gone temporarily. And you're like, that would have been a surprise to some people. To me, it wasn't really a surprise at all. You know, the fact that Globeheads are saying, I was kind of hoping to present this, I was hoping to see the debate, I enjoy tuning in. And these are the people who are like, you're an idiot, flat-tired muppet, you know, normally in the comments. And you think, yeah, well, I know you love to hate the show. That's why I intentionally don't ban the comments on the main channel. You know, the main biggest channel is open to all. And I've said it all the time. People constantly accuse me of being banned in there. And I'm like, nobody's banned. And then they go, yeah, I am. You ban me. No, I am not. Nobody's banned on that main channel. And then they go, well, no, maybe it's because Anthony's on the panel. So I'm like, what you're saying is you can't get into the panel because somebody has blocked you, because you've presumably been an idiot to them and they've decided they don't want to have anything to do with you. And you're shocked and calling me out for banning you because you can't get in. That's the reality. But you have to drag it out when they're, you know, constantly accusing you of banning them. And you're like, I haven't banned you. What are you talking about? I don't ban people. I do on the second channel. It's like, that's a smaller channel, and to be perfectly honest, I want to keep that channel a bit more flat earth friendly. In other words, if it's the case that I come off the first primary channel and end up on the Nathan Oakley channel for whatever reason, like I did before, having a load of bogus copyright strikes, I want that to be a bit more of a flat earth friendly channel than the bigger channel. They're going to get mirrored anyway, so it's going to get watched by the same crowd when it gets onto the bigger channel. But for the live shows, it's like, if I'm going to have to go to extra work, which I am definitely doing if I'm broadcasting on the second channel, or a lot more work as I am now doing it on the third channel, that's like, why would I want to put myself through the pain in the arse of having to moderate comments from arseholes when I don't need to? It's like, you can make your comments in the main channel. You're going to anyway. You know, go and watch it there. And I see that occasionally. Oh, I can make a comment here. What? Yeah, on the main channel. Yeah, that's because no one's banned there.
Well, that reminds me. I need to have a little look on mine. Somebody by the name of Trolley McTrollface. He asked me, would I unblock him? And I said, well, why were you blocked in the first place? He said, I don't know. All I said was, and then he gave me a very diluted version of the line he probably said. And I said, well, you're obviously blocked for a particular reason. I'll have a look at it, and if I can remember to do it, I'll unblock you. I said, but stop being a dick, and then you'll not get kicked. Because I think some of them just come in here just to play the martyr. They come in to get blocked, and then they can play the victim card and then make it look like everybody's like demonizing them. And really, it's like, don't be a dick in the first place. Oh, by the way, did you? I know you didn't see my show, most of my show yesterday, but we had that pilot in. I think his name is Bob or something like that. Whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. Did you? He presented evidence of curvature in a plane, not left to right on the x-axis, from the perspective of the pilot looking out to the horizon. And he obviously said horizon drop was the explanation. And I said, but I've heard pilots claim that planes don't fly level to the ground, they fly nose up. I said, is that true? And he said, yeah. He said, they do fly nose up. He said, look on my heads-up display. He said, you can see that there's like a straight line with like a little V in the middle. He said, that's the angle that the nose is pointing up. And I said, right. I said, and then the white line that's underneath it would be the actual horizon if it was level, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, that gap that's between the 2 points there seems to be the same size gap as what it is between the actual horizon that's below the white line. I said, so basically, if you compensate your nose from flying slightly nose up and then put it onto the horizon, your apparent horizon and your actual horizon will then merge into one line and it'll be level or there or thereabouts. I said, maybe not. I said, but it's going to be a lot closer than what you're claiming. I said, your claim is therefore fallacious. And he wouldn't have it. But everybody in chat understood it. They all realized that this guy was trying to pull a fast one. Really, really good picture, actually. So I'm hoping that I catch up with him again later.
Cool. I mean, the other thing I'd say from you know, your personal experience and certainly Ranty's personal experience, the horizon and where it is entirely dependent on how clear the day is. You can push the horizon back significantly. So, for example, Ranty, when he's on the beach and he's got that guy, the runner with the dog and, you know, the family that are at the edge of the limit of his camera, and there's a horizon, but they're standing beyond that horizon, obviously implying that the land itself goes further than that. You know, it's not a fixed, hard, defined point like they want it to be the leading edge of a sphere most of the time. The point is that it can go beyond where you can see, and that's down to the clarity of the day. So when they say, oh, we'll put a theodolite on, it's like, well, how do you explain these two images where you've got a guy on standing on a position that's above the line that you're going to measure? It's like, clearly he's still standing on ground, but he's above the horizon, literally. Looming, as they would call it.
Hmm. Well, oh, did you hear that pussycat barking in the background?
Pussycat, you mean dog?
Yeah, I call them pussycats. Everything's a pussycat. If it's like a squirrel running along the fence, it's a pussycat. If it's an actual cat, it's a pussycat. They get called pussycats. It's like instead of, I don't know why, but we've ended up labeling anything that's animal-like that moves is a pussycat because they just know that word is pussycat means something's alive and that can be killed if they can catch it.
That's them. Oh, you're feeding back. I'm glad I caught that. Need to turn your speakers down. Hey, Chocolate saying. Yeah, you're badly feeding back.
Not Jose.
That's me feeding back.
Oh, is it Jose?
Not Jose. No, it's Chocolate.
I did say Chocolate saying, didn't I?
No, I thought you said Jose. Oh, I misheard. Apologies. Better than being called Chocolate Asian, though.
No, I
don't know, actually, given his recent position.
I'd rather be called Chocolate Asian.
Yeah, I think so. A flat earth Chocolate Asian than a Jose.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
You're still feeding back, Anthony. All I can hear is Chocolate's voice coming through your speakers.
I'll drop and try to come back in.
Sort it out.
Done it. I'm on it.
Oh, Chocolate's gone. Right, we're starting now.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, and Chocolate Sayin. Good to have you all.
Woo!
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Good to have you. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
Nope.
Nope.
No, caught nothing in your P900, Travis?
I thought you were going to say caught nothing in your penis.
I know that was an interesting. Yeah. No, I have no curvature in my P900.
My P900.
You sure you're not holding back any observations that might show a little bit of bent water or something, right?
No, not at all.
All right, good.
Yeah, we wouldn't want you to feel as though you can't like present all of the evidence of the gloriousness that you believe is obstruction, formerly known as curvature, that now appears to be curvature again.
Wow, are you alluding to someone in particular?
No, just putting that out there, just asking questions, making sure.
I don't hold anything back. I just don't have time to go through everything that I have. But I do have, I think, some interesting footage that would show. I've mentioned it before. I've got an oil rig that I can see at a certain distance, and it's obscured at 3 or 4 different levels. And I've changed my location. And as far as I know, the Earth doesn't change its shape over the course of 3 hours. So I just have to put that stuff together, but I think it's pretty good demonstration.
Cool. We'll definitely have to get to that. What about signs of axial rotation? Notwithstanding the fact that obstruction from the bottom up and a change in the atmospheric conditions and potentially the angle of view due to tides, that's not Earth curve. But I am definitely grateful to see something that could be instantly hijacked by a globehead religious zealot as Earth curve, even though it's not. So yeah, I see what you're saying, Travis. But any signs of axial rotation?
Nope.
I've just been reliably informed that Arwin has gone live, but he appears to be having an absolutely massive meltdown.
Yeah, he's breaking down. I had to stop watching it. I couldn't handle it.
I mean, I've just flicked on just
Are
to
you
see
serious?
if he calm down, but he's actually full on screaming down the mic, like trembling. And I think.
Are you serious?
Well,
yeah, I don't know why though.
we can critique that even though it's live. So just you've got a desk, right? You could play it through the audio. Let's have a quick listen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's work out how to do this. So that.
He said he woke up late.
Hang on. You ready, Nathan?
I'm ready when you are.
And allow it to be like this. You can't allow it. You have to stop it now.
Okay, I think we've seen enough. So Arwin's having a bit of a meltdown.
Wow.
Looks like he's crying.
Oh dear. I hope you're okay, Arwin. If you're watching this on the after show, be sure to share the show.
Somebody go tell Arwin.
I hope you're okay.
Let's put this chat.
I feel like I should go on his panel just to see if he's all right. Like, what's going on over there, man?
Yeah, there's plenty of people on there trying to talk him down. You know, John Watson comments trying to talk him down, but so he's got his moment.
Fuck the courts! They are the freaking pedophiles! They are them!
Okay, that's definitely going to be worth a watch. So that's the Early Bird Show over on Arwin channel, which is ARWIJN. Check him out, subscribe today. Definitely an eventful channel, well worth a watch. Any signs that we can have gas pressure without a container?
Nope.
Before, you need to hear this little bit. I'll just a little tiny bit. Are you ready? Are you ready, Nate?
Yeah, go on. I paused, expecting you to play.
Fuck justice! Fuck the courts! They are the freaking pedophiles! They are them! Fuck the courts! Fuck the law! Kill the pedophiles! Kill them all!
Okie dokie. So yeah. So who's on the panel with him? Plain Truth, or was it Chocolate that said he's got people on the panel with him helping him out?
I saw in the chat John Watson making comments trying to talk him down. So I don't know if he's watching any of the comments or not, but
he's obviously saying stuff the courts, get the paedophiles or whatever. So he's presumably he's probably had a bad letter in some way that. I don't know. He's obviously triggered him massively. I've never seen him like that before. Somebody go and put their arm around Arwin.
Yeah, but for the fact that I'm running a live show right now, I'd be on the phone to him. I was tempted to say, Anthony, do you fancy carrying on housekeeping? And then I can give him a quick ring on Skype, but he may not even answer me. We go to the chat, see what people in the chat have got to say about it. I'm off to Arwin, says Vegan Goy.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of what Arwin's doing, this drama can wait. So there may be more pertinent Earth-related things that we need to cover before we go on to things like this. Then we can discuss it at length. So I'm going to try and rattle through the rest of the housekeeping. So is there any evidence of the distance to the sun?
nope.
No.
No, sir.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What?
Gravity.
Nope.
No, definitely no.
Nope.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
I love it.
No.
No.
About the elusive R value? Any evidence of Earth radius?
No.
No. We would have to find a sphere before we found its radius.
Cool, well, that concludes the housekeeping, and I know there will be people in the audience that are saying to themselves, you know, they should keep this flat Earth related, but Jesus, what's going on with Arwin then? So, anybody have the slightest idea why Arwin, a regular panel member, which is why this is directly related to flat Earth, of course, is having a meltdown? Anybody? Anybody at all?
Yeah, it sounds a little concerning. We've all heard him flip out before, but this sounds a little extra. I don't know what's going on. I'm actually concerned for him right now.
Yeah, he's obviously triggered by something, and I don't know what it is, but thankfully it's not me this time. We'll just not ask him about any evidence for gravity. We'll let that one slide.
Yeah, let that slide for a few.
Yeah.
No, I've tried to call him on Skype. He's on Do Not Disturb and he's not answering his phone, so it's not looking promising for us to try and reason with him to perhaps not have this meltdown live on air.
We need to. I don't know. He needs to get laid. He needs a girlfriend. That'll get him back on the straight and narrow.
Well, this is going to get memeified, though, isn't it?
Probably.
I know he did mention that he couldn't sleep. Like, I saw him in one of your premiering videos, and he said something that he couldn't sleep, he was restless, wasn't feeling 100%. So I don't know if this is attributing to that, but it seems like it, because I know he didn't go live on time. So I don't know after that.
Well, I guess we'll find out in the fullness of time. But it's kind of, to try and move the conversation on from this point is now quite difficult for me as a host, right? Because no matter what I bring up, somebody somewhere is going to go, well, what about Arwin, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, Travis is gone. Maybe he's going to go and try and reason with Arwin. Has he got a link to Arwin's show? Yeah, I'm even doing it now. This is terrible. We shouldn't be.
Nah, we shouldn't really, but we should also, I don't know, we should put our arms out and just bring him in and say, come on.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get him on Skype and say, look, man, I don't know what I'd say to him, to be perfectly honest, but at the moment, all I'm concerned about is the fact that he will now be memeified forever, ranting into the camera, saying, F the courts, or whatever he was saying.
Yeah, you look.
Why is Adam calling me a bastard? What have I done? This is not my doing, Adam. I have no responsibility. I take no responsibility. I'd put my arm around him, but we're running a live debate. There's a link in the info box. Someone might actually join to debate us on the shape of the Earth rather than concern themselves with Arwin's current meltdown. You just don't know. And I've got to be here for that possibility. I may seem heartless, but I did say in the pre-show, didn't I, Anthony? Look, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. If you've got a schedule and you've got to go live, Arwin, you go live. Well, I gave Arwin that advice, and now I'm going to take that advice. So as much as I could be there, putting my arm around him, being breathed fire on, more likely. Hey, Flat and Earth.
Hi there.
Hello. But I can't,
I
can't be there for him this moment. I will be. So, do you know anything about Arwin?
No, but he seems okay. I mean, he seems down, but he seems okay. He's not freaking out right now, so.
He calmed down? Because he was freaking out before.
Yeah, he seems like post-tears.
He was
Right.
at one point. I could see tears. Like, not necessarily down his face, but he'd filled up.
Yeah.
What was the issue? Fuck the courts and all that. What was he on about?
I don't know. I'm not subscribed to him.
Oh, so this will have picked him up a few subs then. Great advert work, Arwin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you subscribe?
No, never. He's nuts.
Fair enough. Some
So
people
it's
like
how
that.
you really feel.
Some people are drawn to that kind of bonkers behaviour and, would subscribe intentionally off the back of that kind of craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have my mom as an example, so I steer clear away from my mom, so I'm not going to go towards someone else that has that problem.
I don't know if he's that bad. I don't think he's schizophrenic. I've been
No.
kind of just barking mad.
Yeah, but whenever I get that vibe, I just try to steer clear. Nothing personal, Arwin.
Might be barking mad in some aspects, but I don't think he bothers anybody in society in a way that they need to be concerned for that he's a risk or anything like that.
This is worth a second mention. But the other day, when the question of space comes up, and I asked the panel, who here has experienced space? And I think someone said something like, I've experienced it on TV. And then Arwin says, yeah, I've experienced space, but I'm not sure if it was a physical or a metaphysical experience. There's a small pause, and then Anthony goes, kick him. Just kick him.
I remember that.
It's like, what's that about? Kicking.
Shout out to Arwin.
Now, Arwin's good. I really like Arwin. I know he gets a lot of stick, but it doesn't change my thoughts and feelings on him. He's a good guy, and I like him, and I don't care what anyone else says. This minor glitch is very Arwin. Wouldn't you agree? This is not that out of character.
I like Arwin too, and he's not out of character at all. Really, he does have these crazy little meltdowns periodically, but it doesn't mean. Mind you, he did tell me massively, like publicly, like to fuck off. I don't need you. I was like, oh, all because I wanted to join that conspiracy cats one where he had cats on and he was grilling him on gas pressure. I wanted to go in there and like cut his head off because we all know that he can't answer the gas pressure question. And to be fair, he did try it with Arwin, but to be fair to Arwin, he wanted to do it himself, and I can't really blame him. But he still shouted at me and told me to fuck off. So I was like, oh, maybe it's time that I leave.
Yeah, like I say, it's not 100% out of character. This isn't that big a shock. So while he will get memeified, he'll probably embrace it willingly. He's basically unshameable. He was making some racist slurs against unorthodox the other day, saying, go and drop your banjo, or whatever he was saying. And I was like, there's no need. And coincidentally, unorthodox had said something slightly risque afterwards that had come through and assumed I was talking to him. And it's like, well, actually, no, I'm talking to Arwin, because there's no need to, start calling you a redneck, basically. And my example to Arwin was, you wouldn't like it if someone was calling you an elf now, would you? And he was like, well, actually, yeah, I would like that.
It's a good impression.
He's unshameable. I mean, he'll be back to normal tomorrow, and he'll be like, yeah, so what? I was annoyed. So this is probably a bit of a storm in a teacup. Let's hope so.
So he's 39, so I wonder if it has to do with him turning 40. My wife went through this when she was about to turn 30, where she got depressed about it, and so I wonder if that means something to him.
I honestly don't know. We can
I don't either.
But it ain't going to change that there's still no evidence for a rotating spherical ball of bendy water that orbits anything. It's just nonsense. But it's still a worthy conversation in some respects. So, where were we?
I know.
Wait.
Go on, Anthony.
Well, we're unorthodox, but you know what'll happen? Unorthodox will be watching the early bird show instead, and we've been dropped.
Well, that's why I thought there's no point in fighting it. If you're going to be critical of this show for not being very flat earthy, it is still public. Anybody can still join. If there is a globehead that actually wants to have a decent conversation, not about gossip, I would prefer that massively. However, I can't fight against this. This is happening, whether I like it or not. So, yeah, it's going to get talked about. Tough luck. I'm just going to accept this. That's why I've gone quite quiet. I don't care. Discuss it. Arwin's having a meltdown.
Oh.
How do you reckon he'll join this show? Because I bet he will.
I don't know, actually, because he's going to be deliberately late, isn't he? Because he's accidentally started late, but he'll have to be deliberately late for you because He'll not be here for the second show. He'll not be here until the second show. And that's if he comes on at all.
Adam's saying, can you simulcast it? In other words, can we live stream a show where we, as a live panel, watch Arwin have a meltdown with the audience? No, Adam, no. Just come up with a good flat earthy question. For God's sake, man. Help me out here.
Which
Well,
Adam?
why don't we talk about Jose's footage? Because I had a conversation with him last night on Vegan Goy's Discord. And my critique, because he had a subscriber do a test, my critique was that the image of the lighthouse that Jose produced shows that there has to be some magnification because the scale is not correct at the distance. And then the subscriber who did a test, the image that he produced, I'm curious to find out at what distance he got that image, because it seems that he simply scaled it to the appropriate perspective so that it would prove his point. So he's affirming the consequent by saying, look, here's what the lighthouse should look like. But I don't think he gave us enough information in terms of where he got his image from. That is, it has to be the same distance that Jose is observing, and I just don't think it's there. So that could be worth looking at. I sent the link to Tony.
Yeah, Tony discussed it with me and made a similar point in terms of the actual distances. So without stealing Anthony's point too much, Anthony was of the opinion that maybe he hasn't actually done the maths on it. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, Anthony.
I would do, but it took me ages to find the height of that. That thing's not actually a lighthouse that he's looking at. It's actually a water tower that looks like a lighthouse that was given a dual purpose at some point later on in its life, quite recently. And now it is considered a lighthouse, but when you search for lighthouses in Texas, it doesn't come up because it's actually a water tower. So it took me ages to find the citation for how tall it is. So I can't actually do it without finding that damn citation again. And I don't know where it is because it was deep rooted elsewhere and I just couldn't find it. But my view is that at 17 and a bit miles, you shouldn't see any of it. All of it should be behind the curve. But we're seeing it. And that's the bit I'm not sure he's actually done. But there was a dispute over how high he was. He reckons he's 24 feet off the surface of the water. Now, or it might be 20. I think he said 22. Could be 24. I can't remember exactly which. But I said there is absolutely no way you're 20 feet. That's as high as almost a house. You are not as high as a house where you are. I said probably about 9 feet max. That's including your tripod. But anyway, I've said to him, you need to go back and do it, but do it put the camera on the beach and watch that. You'll still see it. It'll still be there. If you can see it from where you saw it before, go and put your camera on the floor right near the water and you'll still see it. Because basically, it doesn't make the observer height doesn't make any difference to this. This is how I know that we're not on a sphere. And if we are on a sphere, it doesn't have the effect of that seesaw with the horizon that they show you on Metabunk Curve Calculator. It doesn't have that seesaw effect. So you can tell by virtue of that you're not on a sphere. But nonetheless, that was my position, but I can't find that citation for how tall it is. So without that, I'm struggling.
Sure. So even if we were to allow Jose to make the connection that he couldn't do on yesterday's show, which I got a lot of kudos for, and I don't know why. I was just like, just standard half of the course stuff, right? Somebody comes along and says that obstruction is curve, and you ask them, well, why? Travis, you'll know exactly. You can relate, right? You had the same question.
Yeah. I posed it to him again yesterday. I said, I simply want you to show me how you eliminated all of your other options. And basically he said, I just looked at it and just crossed them off in my mind. That's basically what he said.
Well, what we can do instead, Nate, if you want, we can present some really cool flat Earth evidence and basically kill a bit of time by presenting some, because apparently we get criticised for not presenting enough flat Earth evidence. What do you reckon?
We can talk about Arwin.
Oh, we had the segue going.
Well, I'd like to say about Arwin, I wish him well. I'm sorry he's going through this. And me specifically, what bothers me about him is that he always acts kind of high and mighty, and like he's fine and like he has all the answers. But I know that he doesn't, and that internally he's feeling like he feels today, except for the part where he's actually expressing it and he's showing it to us. So I'm sorry he's going through this, and I wish him well.
Who's listening to Cranberry Zombie? That'll get Nathan a strike.
Sorry, I'm at work.
Nah, I don't think it was audible enough, don't worry. It'll tell me if I do. It'll tell me almost instantly now. YouTube have upgraded their copyright claim processing software so that as the stream is live, if you do have something like that happen, someone played some music, it'll instantly tell you on the live stream, on the, what do they call it, the live dashboard. So I just have the live dashboard open for exactly that sort of reason. But I couldn't even hear it, to be honest. I've got you guys turned down as much as possible, same with my mic, because my kid's making so much noise. But I deliberately didn't say anything, because I thought to myself, if I don't say anything here, how long before the conversation goes from the direction, which is excellent, Anthony, brilliant segue, back onto Arwin? Took 2 minutes.
It was immediate. There was no respite.
Hey, I was just trying to kill the silence because Nathan didn't respond.
That was intentional, just to see what happened. I was gonna, my intervention was going to be, Travis, don't fight this. This is inevitable. It's going to happen. But yeah. In terms of flat Earth evidence, though, I will say this. It's on screen right now. I deliberately keep this pretty similar because it's all stuff that's covered on the show. You can see any of these images on prior debates when they've been presented as exclusives. They're not anymore. They just go round and round in circles and people just ignore them, which is wonderful because usually some bonehead asserts something like, well, where's your best? You haven't got any flat Earth proof. There isn't any proof. And I say, what's on screen right now is a lighthouse. And Anthony goes, yeah, lighthouse. And Earth Flattener goes, yeah, lighthouse. We go, yeah, okay, lighthouse. Ruhif says, not lighthouse. But that's maybe an issue for a different day. Anyway, lighthouse. Morgord Lighthouse. Absolutely and unequivocally. Confirmed by Miles Davis from a slightly higher observation point. It's definitely Morgord Lighthouse. We see it because it's there. And that's the end of our argument as a flat earther. We say we see that lighthouse. And that's all we need do. As a globe head, that is a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of Morgord Lighthouse. Why is it a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram of Morgord Lighthouse? Well, because a radius value says so. That's why. It's pathetic. So we have plenty of flat Earth proof. Normally, it rolls up on screen when a globe head asserts that we don't have any. And then you go, what's on screen right now? As you've said it.
Well, let me present
It's so weird to me how when you were trying to get that, when you were trying to ask Jose yesterday, how do you get from the obstruction to the actual curvature, and he couldn't realize that. Yeah, you only get to the curvature by assuming R and doing all these calculations. You don't actually have curvature, just obstruction. And it's like him and Wiggles, like, I don't understand how they don't understand it. Especially Jose, because he's been doing this too. Like, this is what confuses me about this whole Jose situation. But
I think I've got an answer for that. Jose does try and spend an equal amount of time in both sides of the camp. Now, I don't think it's fair to call him flip-flop just for having an association on the other side of the argument. What's wrong with that? But ultimately speaking, he does spend a lot of time on the other side of the argument, more so than most flat earthers, which I actually respect him for. I'm going to shout him out for it, in fact. You know, good for you, Jose. Find out what both sides of the argument are. The problem being that when they discuss it on their side of the fence, the assumption is automatic and in need of no justification. To say, there's Earth curve. In other words, not even label it as obstruction. They just literally say, that is me seeing Earth curve. They're so cognitively challenged that they have told themselves, when they see obstruction from the bottom up, there's Earth curve. And it's probably verbalised as such. So the cognitive break isn't that there's anything wrong with the observation, because he's told, Jose is told, or it's referred to as in the circles he hangs around in, that he's seeing Earth curve. So he's not been told, well, do you not realise that that's not anything curving, that's obstruction that you call Earth curve? How'd you get from one to the next? Well, the long and short of his answer was, I don't have a satisfactory answer for that.
So in essence, they already have the answer. It's Earth curves. So what they have to do now is figure out how they get the actual obstruction.
Precisely.
Yeah, exactly.
You're very good at that, Chocolate, by the way. I was talking about you the other day. I forget with who. But you have this very good way of calmly, I say quietly because your mic's a little bit lower than everyone else's tends to be the case. Maybe you're just softly spoken. But very calmly illustrating the point really concisely and calmly when there's a little lull. I've heard you do it several times. You're like, wow, Chocolate knows exactly what's going on here, and he's just waiting for that little moment to put in his concise version so that the audience gets it perfectly. So my hat is tipped to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Learning from you guys.
Sorry, Chocolate. I can see you presenting something, Anthony. Did you want me to pop you on screen?
Yeah. I'm going to use a scene transition, but before I do my transition, I may as well shout out some of the channels that I watch.
Hold on. Do I need to put you on before you do this?
Pardon?
Should you be on now?
Yeah, put me on now. You might as well.
There you go. You're on.
Next transition is the one I want anyway. So if you're not familiar with these channels, these are the channels that I tend to spend time watching and supporting and promoting, because you'll notice that Globebusters has been shifted across a little bit and replaced by Red Pill Philosophy. Eventually, Red Pill Philosophy is going to push Globebusters off because most people are aware of Globebusters. Obviously, Nathan's show, Roxana Globalist Denier, make sure you give her an ad. Nick at Phuket Word, great channel. Ranty Flat Earth, you can scribble him out a little bit. My Perspective, Rory at My Perspective, excellent for animations with regards to perspective. Patricia over at Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Beyond the Imaginary Curve, obviously Dale's got to get a mention. Iron Realm Media, Friday nights 11:30ish on if you're a UK observer. And then we've got the Hoary Sheet Show, who's not done work recently for a while. I need to find out what's going on with him. And obviously, last but by no means least, we've got Crow 777. Anyway, here is my favorite piece of evidence that proves to me that we're not on a sphere. I took some photography from this hill at St. Bees, and it's just the coast, looking at the Isle of Man. And at the time, I didn't realize how contentious it was going to be. It's all Ranty's fault. He was the one that suggested I should present it as a flat Earth proof because it's interesting. And it turned out to be quite interesting. But all I'm doing here is just showing how I got to where I took the footage from. And the question, keyword question, the question I asked was, what's the land that we're looking at? Because it appears to be floating. And it turned out to be the Isle of Man. However, it can't be seen from here because even at this height, it's supposed to be behind the curvature of the Earth. Now, it was just a clear day. Now, you can see that it's kind of milky in the horizon, but that was a really clear day. But nonetheless, we see what appears to be land, and it appears to be floating. And I'd not seen this before, and I wanted to know what is it I'm looking at here. I don't understand what I'm looking at. It looks to me like you're looking through a porthole in the atmosphere. That was how I remember it. Anyway, I asked the question, what is the land? It turns out that it's the Isle of Man, but none of it should be seen. All of it should be behind the curve of the Earth, even at this elevation. They argued it vehemently, massively for ages. But I asked the question, what was the land? There was a time when we thought it might be actually Ireland in the background because there happens to be some tall mountains in the background in Ireland, but it turns out not to be. But nonetheless, I was challenged by Sly Sparkane, basically to prove that the Earth was flat, go and get the same observation from the beach. So I did. I went and got the same observation from the beach in summer when the weather was like warm, and it wasn't the hottest part of the day. It was in the afternoon when it had all settled down. But as you can see, there's lots of question marks in this. Is it Scotland, perhaps? Because I didn't exactly know what I was looking at. So anyway, Sly said, go and get it from the beach. Then we've got a conversation. So I did. I went to the beach and I recorded the same observation from the beach. Now, if we are on a sphere, there is absolutely no way there should be 700 feet of drop, geometric drop. And this is what you're looking at. You're looking at the same land now, just from the beach. Now, we see the elements of compression in this horizon picture, the same compression that Ranty sees with his boats. And it was so obvious at the time, it was squashed to me that I didn't actually recognize it initially. That's why I had to go back to identify the mountains, because I didn't recognize it. And the further I go across, now bear in mind I'm lay on my belly on the beach at this point, literally lay in the moist sand. I can see the same land. Now, if we really are on a sphere, that cannot be seen, right? It's compressed. Don't know why, it just is. But that's what I can see. Now, my view on it is, well, that's 700 feet of missing curve. That to me is my strongest work. And the ballers claim that it's been debunked, but no one's debunked it. Nobody can explain how this is possible without distorting the way that light bends. Now, light doesn't, we don't have bendy light. We don't have bendy water. We have a little bit of atmospheric refraction, but it doesn't cause light to follow an arced path following this 7.6R, which in this case is going to have to be greater than 6.6. It's going to have to be more than 6.6 to carry this around the Earth. But nonetheless, the ballers claim it's been debunked, but it hasn't. There is no explanation for this on a sphere other than bending light out of all proportions and just redefining the laws of physics with bending of light. This is not what we're seeing. We're seeing the land. It's not a mirage. And it's repeatable. All right, you do have to get a clear afternoon, but when we're in summer, there's plenty of them, and it's repeatable again. But I can see this land, and this is now all I'm doing now is removing the contrast and the color to emphasize what I was looking at. And obviously, you can't really see. This wasn't even a particularly clear day. This either. It wasn't as if it was like the best of the weather. So you can see the clouds are rolling in on the left hand side. It's clearly not a clear day. But look where the camera is. The camera's on the floor on a little makeshift tripod, basically to get it as low as I could get it without lying in the wettest sand in front of me. So that for me is my strongest evidence for why it's not a sphere. And obviously Hoy Lake from 30 miles away, this is what we can see. Blackpool Tower with that love heart at the bottom of it. From 29.75 miles away, all you should see is the curve, or the ball at the top, the ballroom thing at the top, the platform or the observation deck or whatever you want to call it, from the RNLI in Hoy Lake. And Mick West just had on screen what it should look like. But when we actually go there from 30 miles away, that's what we actually see. We see the love heart at the base of the tower. We see the whole of the tower, and we see artifacts that belong to the central pier, I think it is, or the south pier. So this is the love heart. We see this in the photo. This tells us that we're seeing all of the tower. It does sit on the ballroom, but nonetheless, we're seeing down to the ballroom, but we should only see the top part of the tower. So for me, I can see this, and I see this every time I go down there if it's clear enough night and there's not mist or condensation on the horizon. We can see the roller coaster. That's got a height of 235 feet. That should not be seen from 30 miles away. And this work's been since repeated by a guy called, I can't remember what his name is, but this has been validated and repeated now. So basically, the ballers can't even argue that this is weird refraction if it's someone's gone back and done it that's not me, and it's 2 years later. And what this highlights is that this is observable, it's repeatable, it's verifiable, and ballers can go back and do it if they want to. But it also means that Dazza, the cameraman, lied when he told everybody that I wasn't where I said I was. I was exactly where I said I was, Dazza. You lied to people, and people bought it because they're stupid and they just want to accept any evidence that supports the assertion that it might not be a ball, that it's a ball, or that there might not be an absolute perfect observation. But it doesn't change the fact that that's what it looks like compared to what it should look like if we live on a sphere. This, for me, is my reasons for why I realize that we're not living on a sphere. And if it is a sphere, it's not a sphere the size they're telling us. So something else is going on for me. I don't know what's going on, but it appears to be flat. I'm done.
Excellent, Anthony. Thank you for that. Impromptu. I'm getting feedback from you, though. Excellent demonstration, yes. Indeed, there are plenty of reasons to see that the Earth is obviously and observably flat. You just need to go out there and observe it.
Yep.
I mean, I like Ranty stuff as well. I mean, along the way, we've had arguments about the angle that you're looking at, whatever you're looking at out in the distance, because according to them, obviously, it's falling away from you in all directions, right? Well, the mathematics that they use dictates, i.e. you cannot get around this. It must be so that your camera's pointing down. So to negate that, to get a tangent with the leading edge of the sphere that's causing the obstruction in the first instance, you essentially have to point your camera down. So there's an observation that Ranty made where he literally dug a hole before the edge of the tide. So he puts his camera in a hole, so he's forced to point it upwards at the observation in the distance. So it's right in the bottom of his frame with these ducks bobbing up and down. And you go, well, there is no, they can't even calculate that in their begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator because he's pointing the camera up. which is just physically impossible to do, let alone actually capture, I forget what it was, Devonshire Dock Hall, I believe, is the actual observation. Sorry about all the noise here.
Let me just respond to Life is Short. He claims, light does bend and arc. It's an increasing optical density layer. Actually, moron, it's not. It's a consistent layer. You're looking through the same layer when you're looking through a ball. It's looking through a flat plane. But if you're looking through a ball and the land is bending away from you because of the curve, then actually you're looking through a decreasing density layer, which would force the light to bend up because the Earth's falling away. So the atmosphere density that's sticking to the ball is getting less dense. That will cause the light to bend up. So that would cut things off more. You wouldn't be bending the light around the curve of the Earth because it would have to be an increase in optical density layer, as you correctly describe. But that's not what we have on a ball, is it? When we're looking at the horizon, if the Earth's falling away from it, from straight, then it means that the straight, relatively speaking, is passing through an ever decreasing density layer, and that would cause the light to bend up.
So we're talking at cross purposes, or you are with Life is Short, or whatever the person you were just talking to. So you've got two different types of refraction. There's refraction. Now, refraction's real, it happens, and you can show it, demonstrate it, it's a thing. Then you've got terrestrial refraction. Now, that is a mathematical application of 7/6 of the radius of Earth, or whatever they fudge it to make it work. But ultimately speaking, it's nothing to do with refraction and everything to do with that R value that's assumed in the begging the question on steroids known as terrestrial refraction. So you assume you're on a ball with a radius value. Then you assume that light bends around that ball at 7/6 or whatever you fudge it to of the radius. No, that's a begging the question fallacy, followed up with a begging the question fallacy to back itself. Well, no one's going to tolerate that here, that's for damn sure. Terrestrial refraction, 7/6R, is mathematics. Refraction is something that you can look at and quantify. Well, that's not what they do on the globe. They're not using refraction and the effects thereof. We had Mick over the... Oh, I should give credit where due to Anthony. Anthony had Mick absolutely over a barrel on this. He's got little links that say, click here about my... What does he call it? Standard refraction, a relabeling of 7/6R terrestrial refraction, but nevertheless, standard refraction, i.e. 7/6R. You click on the link and it takes you to all sorts of details about refraction. Nothing to do with R. And Anthony's like, show me one reference to R here. How many? 0. That's how many, because it's a begging the question fallacy. It's sod all to do with actual refraction that we do experience. It's just 7/6R, or whatever you fudge it to on the day that it doesn't match your model. Yeah, go Nathan! Terrestrial refraction's evil.
Evil R.
Can I just ask a question, and I want everyone on the panel to be honest. There's 4 of you other than me. Who on the panel right now is watching Arwin?
Not me. I'm going through my footage.
Not me, I'm at work.
Yeah, I'm at work too. I can't really do all that.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Yeah, we're getting paid to do this.
Yeah, from someone else, I might add, not me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm at work in a hangout, working hard, earning the coin, putting it to the man.
Just
So Anthony Riley
that
said,
all flat earthers are like unemployed or something. So me and Flat Earth are killing that rumor.
yeah. Anthony Riley said he wasn't sure about what Hori Sheet was doing, and he has also Flat Smackers Live, and so he's on there. He just has a couple of channels.
You there, Anthony? Anthony, the one that didn't reply, probably is the one person watching Arwin.
Yeah.
Getting constant rolling updates. So if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980 and you've watched the pre-show, etc., we had no idea what was going on, and now we're getting constant updates from people like Vegan Guy, because apparently we've got Arwin with 140 people watching him have a meltdown right now. That's probably his best audience ever.
Hey Goy, come on, let us know what's going on. I need to know.
There's someone in the chat that does actually know. This has been inescapable and awkward, but if you can just fill us in, the link's in the info box, just come and tell us what's going on. It'd be nice to have it concise and on this show so it doesn't poison the next one as well. I got Vegan Guy saying, I've never had that many views. Just have a massive meltdown, Vegan Guy, and you'll be sorted, mate.
Alright, so I know, I went and checked. I know Issa's on there right now. He's talking to him.
Well, I'm sure he's a good counsellor.
Yeah, he's trying to calm him down, I think. From what I heard for a few seconds.
Yeah, that's probably what it needs. Because Issa's also not afraid to say, get a grip.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's on right now. He's telling him that. Issa's a good guy. Shout out to Issa.
I want to know why it is that if ball earthers say things to us like, go and prove sunsets. Well, the cause of a sunset, according to their model, is that the Earth turns. Well, why is there no evidence that proves that the Earth moves an iota? The best you guys can come up with is a misrepresentation of Bob Nodell from Globebusters. When you misrepresent him by saying that he proves that the Earth spins by measuring light at 15 degrees an hour. Well, we see lights that rotate at 15 degrees an hour, guys. You guys are misinterpreting and misrepresenting Bob, and you're misinterpreting what his claim is actually doing. We know that the stars are rotating at 15 degrees an hour. That's what the fiber optic gyro is showing. But why can't anybody else measure it? And in addition to that, why can't planes be demonstrated to be upside down relative to where they were when they took off, when they landed in Australia, if they took off in London? Obviously, flying around a ball, it's got to be upside down, relatively speaking, to where it was when it started. Why can't you show that?
Yeah, I agree to a certain degree. The problem is more inherent to the fact that these gyroscopes aren't providing scientific validity to anything on either side of the argument. So they're open to interpretation, and you can spin the results either way, depending on what you do with the results. It's not...
How can you... I don't agree with that.
You think it's
if
scientifically
rotating
valid?
at 15 degrees, you should see it on a window ledge.
What's the phenomena that you're observing? Anthony, what's the phenomena that you're observing with these gyroscopes?
I'm thinking sunrises and sunsets.
So you think that you are going to establish scientifically the cause of sunrises and sunsets with the gyroscope, do you?
I hypothesize that it is the Earth that's rotating that causes it.
But that's not your claim, so I'm not asking you to play devil's advocate. I'm saying this applies to both sides of this argument. You and Johnny Globehead cannot give me scientific validity for any claim based on what a gyroscope does. You will never achieve that, Anthony. And I discussed this with John the other day, and I don't know where he got the snip from. Somebody in Discord had sent him a snip. I'd never heard this, but Bob Nodell saying something along the lines of, it's bad news for the flat Earth because we found a 15-degree blah 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 in our fibre optic gyro. And he's apparently saying this when he's mic'd up or something with the...
Yeah, but there was a second sentence, though.
But that's not my point. Let me just make my point first. Fair enough, if it's valid, just make it after. But I'm just going to say this. Either side of this argument can use gyroscopes in the same way as globeheads use the Cavendish experiment or the Foucault pendulum to assert what they assert. Well, gyroscopes, unfortunately for both sides of the argument, does fit into this camp. It's not science. Now, whether or not Bob is appreciative of this or not, I don't care, unfortunately. If it comes to the time that I have to chop Bob's head off with this, so be it. You know, it's not that I don't want to have allegiance with flat earthers over their misuse of language, But the implication is the same on both sides. If you're going to imply that using a fibre optic gyro provides scientific validity to your assertion, then you are wrong. It does not. And us, or me and John and several others, including yourself, Anthony, are trying to fight the fact that when people say science says, or use the word science to mean an assertion made by men in white coats, that is what Bob is effectively doing. Hate to say it. I don't want to piss Bob off. That's not my objective. It was the same with Dr. John. I don't want to piss these people off. I wish I wasn't in the position that I am. But if I'm going to say to people, we've had our cognition hijacked, and what we think is science is actually pseudoscience. So, you know, Jaren, me, everybody's guilty of this. You know, I'll pick on someone else. Jaren, as I've mentioned him. So Jaren will say, with an inflection that's upward in his voice. So I know what he means when he says this. Well, science says that we have X, Y, and Z. Now, I know that he's, by his exasperated nature in saying it, means that this isn't really science. That's what he's saying. But in reality, he should label it correctly as pseudoscience. And if I was to, at least at this stage, say that to someone like Jaren, he'd probably accuse me of being pedantic. And I'd have to labour the point for a week like I did with Dr. John. I'm not being pedantic. That's the nature of the trick in our education system. We're told science is empirical. It proves the cause of your effect that you have observed in the natural world. But then, immediately afterwards, we're told about molten iron cores in physics class. And you go, right, that's not scientifically valid, but we've just been told, in a little clever trick, that this is science. The class is called science. We're looking at science, right? Empirical. No, it's not. But that, by definition, is pseudoscience, but we're all programmed to call it science. So when people like Jaren, again, I'm not attacking Jaren in any way by saying these things, when he says, well, science is wrong, it's like, well, no, science is just a method. Science can't be making assertions and be wrong about them, it's just a method. But what people have been told is quote-unquote science, they're wrong. Well, they're practitioners of pseudoscience. You know, the people who have hijacked that method, that empirical method, and claimed that it's science when presenting maybe a gyroscope or a Foucault pendulum. You know what I mean? So Bob's as guilty as anybody. This is definitely not an attack on Bob if he's watching this. Much love to you, Bob. Great guy, great guy. My point is just the same. If you're going to have us chop the heads off globe heads for asserting that Cavendish is some sort of scientific validity to something, it's going to come to a head eventually with gyroscopes. And John Savage did the same. He presented to me a phone call that he had while he rationalised this out with me, because he's been referring to gyroscopes as experiments, and he was, you know, he's of a scientific, you know, he's educated. And he had to relinquish a certain part of his cognition and was annoyed about it. Not at me, but as he came to terms with the having to rephrase his cognition and his verbiage when he's talking about, specifically about, gyroscopes. You know, and for every time he's called it experiment, he's been wrong. And he had to sort of accept that. And, you know, if you shoot the messenger, me, because of this, then fine, I don't care. I'll deal with enough globehead trolls that the odd flat earther saying, wow, how dare you tell me it's just pedantic to say you can't call it an experiment. It's just a turn of phrase. It's like, well, that turn of phrase is critical, because when we're told that Neil deGrasse Tyson's right because science is right whether you like it or not, well, science, the method, can yield empirical results. But when Neil deGrasse Tyson says it, he's talking about astrophysics, pseudoscience. So, you know, that's the end of my rant.
I feel the exact same way about thermodynamics and quantum eraser. I feel the same exact way. Everything you said.
Yeah,
well, I was waiting.
The problem with that particular.
Go on.
The problem with that particular line of inquiry is that there's a Nobel Prize winner that established things like particles, light. Okay. Lights were particles. So even if you disagree with John, you've got to disagree with a Nobel Prize winner.
I don't care what they've won. Just like Nathan said, it's just a bunch of lab coats, and they make the decisions. And to me, it's just a bunch of parlor tricks. And we've been fooled into believing that they're sound.
In terms of the second law of thermodynamics, I've got to disagree with you. You know, there is no demonstration of anything contravening that law.
Yeah, except for water. I mean, I'll say it again and again. I mean, it may be wrong. It may go into quantum physics, but to me, it just makes sense that water contradicts this because it goes into a cloud, into the gas, and that is energy going from high to low and then to high again when it becomes water again.
Hang on,
You know,
let's
but
run.
okay, so in thermodynamics, there are laws, right? And so you have to stand under these laws. And the way they do it with thermodynamics is that the universe, when you're doing an experiment, like for example, if you have a kettle and then you boil it, steam comes out. And so you've done the experiment in a house. That house is the universe, right? And so that's why the thermodynamics are laws, because they can determine what the universe means. To the normal person, the
Just
universe would seem like it's the entire universe, all planets, all everything. But it only applies to whatever the person doing the experiment, what they determined the universe is. So when you
so
see it in this way, it makes sense. But then that's how people apply it to everything else. That's why they say it applies to everything. It applies to stars because stars are burning, and so they're going to achieve a higher state of entropy. But we don't actually know that.
could you just clarify what you mean when you say that water defies the second law of thermodynamics?
Well, water becomes a gas, right? So it goes into a higher state of entropy, thus uh, a lower energy because it's a cloud. But then it'll come back down as water. So I think everything is in a state of equilibrium, it seems, and water it's regulating everything. So when water goes up into a cloud, and now I'm just talking trash because nobody knows, and that's the point. So when you say the law of thermodynamics, it doesn't make it a law. It's just because people have kind of did a parlor trick to make us think that it is a law and that it is sound as a law and that it applies to everything. But that's because from the beginning, when they started to try to prove the thermodynamics, they were trying to prove God. The person that started it, he said that he believes that everything is a machine and it is alive, thus controlled by somebody. And so I think they continued this narrative trying to fill the puzzle like science does to achieve what they wanted to achieve.
So back to the question: water
Yeah.
defies entropy because it becomes vapor whilst it evaporates.
Yeah, thus lower energy. Yeah, as a cloud, right?
But it's part of a cycle.
Yeah, yeah, a cycle where it comes back down from its higher entropic state as water. But the reason why that is not thermodynamics, why that doesn't apply as a second law, is because when you conduct an experiment of making water into steam, you determine what the universe is. So I would think of it as if steam goes into a higher entropic state, then that's final. Things go into a higher entropic state, so that means that applies to the universe as well. But when you're doing the experiment, the person doing the experiment determines what the universe is. So when they're making that water in the kettle boil and steam out, the universe is the house where they're doing it, not the entire universe as we know it. So that's what makes it a law. They're tricking us into believing this.
When you say it goes into a higher entropic state, could you just define what you mean by that? Because
it goes into a lower energy because it goes from water, which is solid, and then it goes into a gas. It goes into a cloud, which is obviously less energy, right?
No, I wouldn't agree.
That a cloud is less energy? If you put your hand through water, it resists your hand. If you put it through a cloud, it resists it less. So it's less energy. It's more entropic. It's in a higher entropic state.
Not sure I agree, but
I'm sure you don't.
We are going to round out for a short break. If you're watching this in the Flat Earth Debate live audience, stay tuned on the same chat feed as the show will continue in a few minutes after I've tended to my child and had a short break. So stay tuned if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980. Massive thanks to you to tuning in. Also, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!